after he couldn't get the money, the alleged check from your department or whatever, he was saying that if I could just go ahead and leave the dogs, he would guarantee me that I would get the check in the mail from your department. He took me to the municipal building where your department used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you guys have already pulled the video and everything and seen him in the parking lot there with me. He was attempting to scam me out of dogs was what he was doing, and using whatever fake badge he had on his side and being a canine handler with your department as a way to rip me off on these dogs.
All right, so how did you guys first meet, or how was it the first, or how did that come about? What is?
We met on Facebook, and apparently it's, or do you mean that night?
Say that one more time. You kind of got muffled.
Do you mean that night, or how we just met? He started messaging me on Facebook about a year or so ago.
Okay, yeah, that's what I want to know with the original communication. So it was through Facebook.
Yep.
And the badge you said he had, what did that look like?
It was a gold-colored badge. Wasn't the biggest badge, wasn't the tiniest badge. It was a badge that looked about to be 2 inches by 3 inches, and he had it on his hip right next to his pistol.
All right, could you see like any wording on the badge? Did it say police? Did it have an agency or anything?
You know, it's clear down on his hip. I didn't bend over by the guy's crotch looking at his badge. Like I told your detective, anytime us civilians ask any of you law enforcement officers for your credentials, you get shitty with us. So he's supposed to be a law enforcement officer. He's got a badge on. I'm just going with it. You know, I'm not questioning.
I wouldn't group everyone together because our agency, we're mandated to, if you ask for, you know, especially if we're in a plainclothes capacity, if a civilian asks to see our credentials, we have to show it. So none of our officers do that.
I'm pretty sure that's every agency, but we all still know how it goes when somebody gets questioned about their credentials. Anyhow, that's completely aside from whatever.
The pistol you said he had, could you describe that to me?
It was pretty much covered by the holster. Looked like a black pistol. You know, I wasn't standing there looking close at the guy's gun and badge. It was on his hip. He kept putting his hand on it an awful lot. You said you're the K-9 officer. What did you say your name was?
Grooms, Sergeant Grooms. I'm actually the supervisor for the K-9 unit here.
Okay, Sergeant Grooms. And yeah. I thought Detective Nugent was handling this, so this is a bit confusing to me while I'm
his supervisor. So once it got jumped up to be bigger than what we thought originally. So now I'm taking it over.
Yeah, it involved a couple other departments, so when it seemed like nothing was happening, it seemed like your department was doing nothing, I contacted the other departments to get them involved as well, and ABC7 did a story on this guy back in June when he had 22 dogs that was starved to death and skeletal removed from his place, and I've told the other departments if something doesn't happen soon, we're going to see if we can get ABC7 News to start doing a story on it and why this guy is getting away with everything. He's had so many charges against him in the past. They all get dismissed. I'm being told his mother is an actual law enforcement officer. Maybe she works for your department, maybe she don't. But somehow this guy has been getting a lot of charges dismissed off of him.
Well, if it's getting dismissed, sir, that's more than the officer level. That's on the court level. So that's something you would have to take up with them on why it's getting dismissed. I don't have the background on him. I haven't dove that deep into it yet. The initial thing for us is to figure out the initial story and see if we even have enough to go forward with charges. So I spoke to the officer over at Sea Pleasant. He also told me that you spoke to a detective with the county police. So my thing, since you met here, I'm going to take lead on it. So I'm trying to figure
We
out.
originally met over in Beltsville, and from there, when he didn't have the money and didn't have the cash, couldn't come up with the cash, his Cash App wouldn't work. I wouldn't take a personal check from him, and he starts asking about, what about a check from the department? So we ended up, he gave me the address. He said to your department, which apparently it was the municipal building where your department used to be, and he had to have been aware of this.
Well, I mean that's public. Anyone can know that, sir.
Shit. I'm trying to explain things, and you literally just talked over top of me while I'm trying to explain. So do you want to know the details or not, sir?
Well, I'm just trying to inform you of that. You know, there's a couple. Okay, you can continue.
Excuse me?
You can continue.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So from there, we came over to your municipal building. I sat there in the parking lot forever and was texting with him and talking with him on the phone. He claimed he was in a parking lot on the other side of the building. And so I told him, well, I'll drive around there so it's easy to transfer the dogs over after they get your check printed. And the check was supposed to be printed into my name. And so I drove around up the hill where it said restricted. You know, I'm thinking, hell, if I'm with a law enforcement officer that works here, surely there's no problem with me going back there. Light kicked on the building, security light back there, and I realized there was no parking lot, so I turned around and went back down. And I either texted him or called him and told him I didn't see there wasn't a parking lot around there, and he comes pulling into the parking lot at that point. He came around to me, but he's got people calling him on the phone that he's claiming is his captain and his lieutenant, and there was supposed to be a problem with the printer. It wouldn't print out black ink to print the check. It was only printing yellow, and he was guaranteeing me, just go ahead and leave the dogs with me and they'll mail you the check. You know, this is the department and things. And I told him, no, fuck that. Me and my dogs are going back to Ohio. I ain't playing these bullshit games anymore. But I'm sure you've watched the video where I recorded the phone call with him, correct?
I believe I've seen one of them.
Okay, there's two of them. One of them, the short one, is where he was saying that he had another officer wanting a dog as well. And I believe he said Officer Livingston. But there's like a 5-minute phone call where he is claiming at that point, I'm questioning him about what department does he work for, and he said Seat Pleasant at that point. He changed which department he was claiming to work for, and you would have to go back and watch that. I mean, I can't remember the exact words and everything, but it was recorded, so it's all right there. I mean, I was under the impression I was meeting an officer. He exactly said he worked for your department that night, and then it got changed to Seat Pleasant. But, I mean, you got a phone call where he is saying he is a canine officer working for a police department. If that's not impersonating an officer, I don't know. I guess the rest of the world should go out and get badges and pistols and pretend to be officers if there's no charges going to be filed.
Yeah, so like I explained at first, that's something before I just rush out and file for charges and it gets dismissed again. I want to take it to the state's attorney, and because that's ultimately who's going to be presenting the case if it does go that far. So I want to get their green light first.
If it doesn't go that far,
I mean, sir, can I finish?
Go right ahead.
I cut you off, so I'm not. So I want to get the blessing and the green light from them, saying that yes, we have enough. We meet all the things for the charge, and then we can move forward with charging him. Back to the night, the phone call that you have recorded, was that before or after you met him at our municipal building?
That was after, because I realized I did not have anything to prove that he was impersonating an officer. He always said it on the phone, never in text messages. So I called him up and recorded that call to get proof, which you guys have now, and it's undisputable proof that he was impersonating an officer. Granted, he's named a different police department while on the phone. He is still impersonating a law enforcement officer.
Yeah, I'm not going to say undisputed. I want to wait till I speak with the state's attorney before I make that call. When he showed up, was he in a police vehicle? Was it?
Obviously not, and if you would have listened to that phone call, I questioned him about that as well.
But was it like, so there's our unmarked vehicles that, did you see any lights in this vehicle at all?
No.
Anything that would give you what type of vehicle was it?
I don't know exactly what make and model of vehicle it was. A little dark SUV. It was either black or really dark blue. I'm thinking it was black. I mean, I did tell him, well, I expected you to show up in your patrol car, you know. You said you were on duty. You don't even have a uniform on. Hell, you don't even have a spotlight on the side of that vehicle. And he says, oh, that's my personal vehicle. I said, well, you said you was on duty, so why would you run and get your personal vehicle if you was on duty, just coming out and getting a couple of dogs, you know, which was supposed to be dogs for him, but on the phone calls he was pretending like the female was supposed to be trained as a narcotics detection dog for a resource officer.
Okay.
His pants he had on was maybe like a greenish gray color.
Can you repeat that part? You sound muffled again. I couldn't barely hear you.
I said his pants that he had on was like a greenish gray color, which different states have different uniforms, and I thought that possibly that they could have been, you know, part of a uniform. And of course, he told me he was undercover was the reason he wasn't in his uniform and different things.
Were they like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with like BDU pants, were they like that style?
I don't
like
even...
with the big pockets on the side?
I didn't even, I mean, you guys got video footage of him from the municipal building. I would think you could see exactly what he's wearing and everything in that.
Did someone tell you we have video? Because you keep bringing that part up. I don't...
Well, your detective told me that at the same time I was telling him, I seen the video camera on the end of the municipal building. He says, yeah, we've got video footage there, and he was going to pull it up. So I don't understand, unless your video cameras don't work and they're just there for show, why you wouldn't have video footage of him.
Where exactly were you parked in the parking lot?
In the parking lot. The parking lot is on the one end of the building. You drive past the flagpole, and that's the parking lot right there on that end of the building, and there is a video camera up on that end of the building.
Yeah, I understand where the parking lot also stretches in front of the building, so that's why I'm trying to figure out where you guys parked. Were you on the side with the brick wall? Were you on the side where the woods go down into the hill?
I was on the side with I was on the side with the brick wall. I did not park in front of the building.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that on that side's not recorded. There's no video there.
Well, that's nice to know. I guess, well, I didn't know that when I pulled in, but that's really nice to know.
Yeah, it faces the other way. But that's so if we do happen to go forward with this, the state attorney gives a bless. I'm pretty sure. Are you okay with being subpoenaed? Because technically you
Yes, I am completely. Witness. I would assume that your state, county, whatever would pay my transportation and hotel while I'm over there testifying, but you better believe I would be there to testify.
Yeah, so I'm almost sure. I don't believe that they will do that, especially for something this type of case.
Really,
So
because
if that's gonna,
every court that I've ever dealt with pays mileage and stuff to witnesses that's being subpoenaed.
they may. I'm not, but I'm pretty because it's not on the higher end of things. It's a chance that they won't. So
Well,
that's
that's
all I want to know.
okay. If I got to pay my own just to make this happen, then so be it. I would think that there's plenty of people on Facebook that's had problems with this that would gladly donate money for traveling expenses and hotel if the state
Okay.
can't take care of it. But I would think the state would take care of it, and he would be responsible for paying damages or whatever to the state. It would be part of his fines in the case. I
Well,
mean, that's
that'll come from the state. I don't have any control of that, so that's something we could, if it goes that far, we can discuss then.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so what I'm gonna do, so you have the video call where he referenced being a Seat Pleasant officer. When you met with him in person, he said he was a Forest Heights canine handler.
Yes.
Okay. Did he ever say he's a Forest Heights police officer, or was it just he's a Forest Heights canine handler?
He said police officer, yeah.
Okay.
He said
All right.
police officer, canine handler. Yeah, he's said it many times over.
Okay. All right. And he had a badge and a gun. You weren't able to read the badge or anything like that. You came in a dark SUV.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do, like I said, I'm gonna follow up before I file for charges or anything. I'm gonna follow up with our state's attorney and see if it's even worth me going forward with it. If they feel like I have enough or not.
There's going to be a lot of pissed off people. I'm sure that.
Well, I can't dispute the law. If the state's attorney's not willing to go forward with it or to represent it, then I can't go against them because they're the ones in the court that's going against it.
Well, at that point in time, that's when we all contact the news stations, and you guys are in the Washington, D.C. area, the nation's capital, and you have a guy running around with a gun and a badge pretending to be an officer. I would think that that's pretty close to national security around Washington, D.C., and I would think that the prosecutor would have some explaining to do as well why this was allowed.
Well, I mean,
Just
it's like I said, it will be more so the evidence that we have. If it's going to be enough, that's really going to be the question. Do we have enough evidence to say that yes, he's impersonating when it comes to the law? Like, a lot of times the law, people perceive the law different than what it actually states to charge a person. So I want to
okay.
make sure from what you're telling us, because pretty, like I said, you have all the information. I didn't see it for myself. I didn't see anything. None of the other departments seen anything. So it'll be from what you're providing to us, if that's enough to say, yes, we can charge this individual.
They've seen the videos, so let me ask you this. If I tell you I'm a canine handler for the Seat Pleasant Police Department, would that be impersonating an officer if I was to say something like that?
Well,
Or would that just
technically,
be...
no, if you're saying you're a canine handler. You're not saying you're a police officer.
Okay, but if I say I'm a law enforcement officer, canine handler for the Seat Pleasant Police Department, would that be impersonating an officer, or would that be, well, we don't think this is enough, we're going to have to talk to the
Yeah, I mean, it
prosecutor?
possibly could because there's part of the statute that the act is part of it as well. So that's why I want to be sure before I throw something up there and it gets dismissed again and he feels empowered because he's never not getting charged. I want to make sure everything is ironed out. So when we do go forward with it, there's no mishaps, there's no hiccups. Everything is on the up and up, and the charges can go through instead of us going through it, wasting your time. You come down here and then we go to court and they're like, oh, this isn't enough. So I want to get all that ironed out before we even get to that point. So that's why I said I want to call the state's attorney and run it past them and, get their suggestion on it.
So, like I said earlier, Detective Nugent said that you know this guy and that you went to his house.
Yeah, that's false. He tried to sell us a dog once. That's the only dealing that I have with him.
Well, I don't understand why Detective Nugent said that. I wished I would have recorded a phone call with Detective Nugent.
I can't speak on that. Well, the videos where you recorded him, did you ever tell him that you were recording him?
No, I didn't. And the law here in Ohio and most other states is as long as one person is aware that the call was being recorded, one person in the conversation, then it's legal. And if you are part of that conversation, then obviously one person is aware. So I don't know what your laws are in Maryland, but I'm sitting in Ohio right now.
That's something I want to run past the state attorney. I just want to know did you tell him or not? That's all.
I mean, do you record your calls?
Do I record my calls?
Yes. Is this call being recorded?
No, before I record calls, I let the person know that they're being recorded.
Oh.
So, is this your cell number?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And do you still have it, did he ever say that he's a police officer, any text message or anything?
I didn't understand you.
Did he ever say that he was a police officer in any text messages that were sent to you?
No, he didn't. I already told you that. That was why I called him up and made the recording, because I realized he did not do that in text messages. It was
okay. I'm just going back. I'm trying to make sure I got everything.
Yes, it was always on the phone.
Okay. All right. So I am going to try to get a hold of the state's attorney today, if not today, sometime tomorrow. And then once I speak with them and figure out where we're going to go from here, I will definitely call you back and let you know.
One more thing I want to mention to you that kind of I mentioned to the two other detectives from the two other departments that I talked to, since it started in Beltsville, moved to your town, and he involved Seat Pleasant by saying Seat Pleasant. You know, he was talking with these other people on the phone and having them calling up, and he was saying this was his captain, this was his lieutenant, and different things, and he was very, very organized on what he was doing. I have no idea who was actually on the other end of the phone pretending to be these people. He wanted me to put me on the phone with the one he said was his lieutenant over the check issue, but it really seems like some sort of an organized crime when you've got
the little bit I know of him, I know he does work for a security company, which a lot of security companies in the area have the same ranking structure as police and military. So that could have been who he was talking with, or I can't say. So I don't.
But working with a security company does not give you the right to say, I'm a police officer, canine handler, I work for the...
So that's what that's what I'm trying to sort through, because I don't know, I'm trying to figure out what exactly he said to you, because I don't know if he was trying to play on words, and there's nothing illegal saying you're a canine handler. There are civilian canine handlers. There's nothing illegal part that. And
No.
I don't know if he's trying to say that he worked with these agencies or he works for these agencies. That it's a lot. It's going to come down to what wording he used. And that's why I want to go back and listen to the video.
Yes, you should have listened to that.
He said to you.
You should have listened to that video before you ever called me and had your answers before you ever called me.
Well, no. So honestly, I'd rather go to the person that actually he spoke to, and then the video can come later. I can watch the video at any time. I'd rather get your side. More important is your side and what you spoke, what you guys spoke in person and everything. The video I can watch as soon as we hang up the phone. There's nothing saying I have to watch that video before I contact you or anything. I will still ask you the same questions whether I watch the video or not, because I want to hear it from you, not through the video, because honestly, with the video, he never said his name from what I remember. So now we have to prove that that was actually him. I mean, we could probably, I think from the video you can see his number. That may help, but he never identified himself as him. So that's why there's a couple things here that we got to sort through to make sure that we can say, yeah, that was him that actually said.
This guy's going to walk on this, isn't he? Every last bit of it. He's going to walk.
I can't say. Like I said, I'm going to defer to the state's attorney and see how they want to.
Yeah,
continue.
I'm going to defer to the news stations myself.
Okay, I mean that's like I said, sir. I'm trying to do it in the way to where we don't have, any discrepancies or anything getting dropped to where we can go all the way if it's enough. And I want to make sure that we're following and charging him accordingly to the law, and not just because we have a personal thought that he is impersonating. I want to make sure everything is covered all the way across the board.
Okay, is this because I'm white?
Say that again, sir?
Is this because I'm white?
Sir, this has nothing to do with race, and I've never mentioned anything about race, his race, your race, anyone's race in this whole conversation.
Well, your dispatcher got really shitty with me, and when I kept asking to speak to a supervisor and told her that I have asked several times to speak to a supervisor, and she kept talking over me. Of course, I raised my voice and told her, quit talking over me. She hung up the phone instead of letting me speak to a supervisor. And that call was recorded. And when you look in those videos, you will see that call as well. And I'm